colleagues. This session is focusing on changing technology and the implications for employment. I am Edward Webster. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa, and we have a panel of fascinating papers on arguably the most central challenge facing labour in the 21st century, and that is technological change, in particular what people have come to call the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And there are some people who are deeply pessimistic about the future of work and labour, and there are others who retain a kind of optimism. I think what we will find in these papers concrete analyses of technology and labour, and I think it's going to be an important contribution to the debate. I'm going to take the speakers in the order in which they are in the program. Our first speaker, Song Hu, hasn't quite arrived. Song Hu, are you hiding under one of the desks, or are you? So I think in the absence of Song Hu, we'll move to our next speaker, which is Tobias Schroder, who will speak about external crowd working, options of influence for worker participation. Over to you.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tobias. I'm from Berlin, Germany. Currently, I'm a master's student at the Berlin School of Economics and Law, and my subject is company law. And beside my job, beside my studies, I also work as a consultant for a consultancy which deals with work councils and unions in Germany. And my bachelor thesis basically was about external crowd working and the options of influence for worker participation. First of all, I want to make sure that everyone knows what I'm talking about, because I guess that not everyone is very familiar with external crowd working, or what does it mean, what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm going to talk about some definitions in the first part, then go to the options, and in the end we can discuss the outcomes. External crowd working. When we start about talking external crowd working, we have to start with a preamble, which is crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing, huge picture, very confusing. There's not really a definition about crowdsourcing. But basically crowdsourcing is pretty easy. That somebody, like a company, offers tasks, projects, or publish them online. And then an undefined amount of people, a crowd, which are always online workers, apply them, solve them, and solve these kind of tasks. Sounds confusing, but one famous example is, you may always know, the crowdfunding method. crowdfunding. I have a project, I want to raise some money, I publish it online and raise money, and in the end I share my results with the founders, or they get revenues, something like this. So this is one form of crowdsourcing. Also collecting knowledge is one of the crowdsourcing methods. It's Wikipedia, basically. Yeah? You also have a big crowd that will share knowledge in the end. And one thing that's also on this confusing picture is cloud labor. And that's what I'm going to talk about right now. But then we have to talk about what is crowdworking then. I found a pretty easy definition. Crowdworking are tasks completed online by a distributed elastic workforce in exchange of pay. So it's not unpaid, it's always paid. And I guess the picture also is pretty good, because you have like workers who contribute something in the cloud, which is an IT solution. It's not a real cloud. It's an IT solution where you can put data inside, and like you see, you have a tab, and somebody who wants to use it or pays for the knowledge in the cloud has to open the tab, and then he can use the knowledge of all the people working for this. You always hear also some other terms like cloud labor or cloud work. It's the same like crowd working, but crowd work is basically the most popular term when we talk about this. And furthermore, crowd working has internal and external. So I talk about external. So what is internal and external? Internal, you can think about a company, an employer who wants to get a project done, and it's a worldwide company. He wants to share all or get all of the knowledge from all his employees all over the world. And that's why he uses a crowdsourcing, crowd-working platform. It's called open source, open innovation. And then employees from probably India, probably from Australia, see this project, and maybe the lead from the project is in Germany, and they're going to solve it, or people from Brazil. So the employer has the effect that he can use all the employees, all the ideas, often used for innovation processes. And the thing is, it's internal because the employer and the employee, of course, have a contract with each other. On the other hand, external crowdworking is also an employer who wants to get solved a problem or a project, but he uses the whole globe, if you want to say it like this. He uses also a crowd work platform. These are third-party companies which publish it, and people who are registered on these crowdworking platforms are called crowd workers, and they can apply for these projects, can solve them, and get paid in the end. So the difference is crowd worker and crowdsourcer, so the employer and the external crowd worker have no at all. Company wants to publish a new app and wants to have some tests, some reviews, and publishes it on a crowdworking platform. I am a registered user, and I test the platform, give them a review, find some bugs, and in the end I get €2 for it, or something like this. So testing and micro tests are not really full-time crowdworking jobs, because you can't really raise big money amounts with that. So the full-time self-employed crowd workers we want to talk about, or we want to handle, are basically on freelancing, design, or innovation platforms. Because then you have to be more educated, you have higher skill level in order to solve the tasks and the projects there. And you can live with the outcome, of course, in the end. So crowdworking is really growing. That's why I think it's a really important topic. We should also talk about, we as unions should talk about that. You can see here two charts basically from the US 2015 data, and in the left picture you see people, or the average people in the US using crowd labor platforms. That is the blue line. Nearly 0.5% of the US citizens use it every month, so regularly, which is an indicator that they are really maybe living from it. So 0.5 sounds not that much, but in order you have maybe, I don't know, 250 million US adults, then it's of course is a huge amount of people, and you see it's very fast growing, and also the market will grow. There is the World Bank report from 2015, and they guess that it will grow, the labor online market will grow in revenue up to 25 billion US dollars, which is quite a lot. So we're not really sure if this is really the only version of working in the future, but it has at least the potential to become one of the most important ones. So, like also Edward said, we have to think about the risks and the opportunities about this. So what are risks and opportunities? In my opinion, of course there are some risks, and of course there are some huge opportunities. For the employers, of course, the opportunity is huge that you have 24/7, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, always on employees all over the world. You can have access to really, really good knowledge from all over the globe. So that's really interesting. And of course, it's really cheaper than to have employees at the company. But also for the workers, it's really interesting because they want to work from home. They have different living situations. So they want also to be flexible and try to find their jobs they want to do. So they want to be self-employed and working online. So there are advantages, of course, for both sides, but in the end we have to think about, and that's the task for us as unions or workers' representatives, to make sure that they're not self-exploiting themselves, because you have really bad terms and conditions sometimes on the crowd working platforms. One example is on design platforms. For example, if I want to do or open up a startup and I need just a logo for my company, I would go to a design crowd working platform and say, hey, I need a logo until next week, maybe like this, and then I get 50 samples of logos in the end from crowd workers who want to apply for this job. And in the end, I only make only one logo can win in the end, and it's a winner takes it all principle. So all the other 49 people get €0 or dollars about for doing this job, and if you are self-employed and you focus on design, and it's only about luck if you are getting paid or not. So that's not really fair, and that's only one example, but I think we have to focus on the opportunities and try to shape it and make it a fair place to work. There are some other challenges. I just want to tip them first. I focused in my thesis about the labor law in Germany, so it's not really clear what are crowd workers in the legal status. Are these home workers? Are these solo workers? Are they sometimes maybe also employed? Because if you have tests, or you solve tests 3 times in a row for the same employer, maybe you have a relationship and you have a contract already. So this is kind of a challenge we have in Germany at least. Then terms and conditions have to follow national law. The example I just gave to you with the logo is illegal in Germany. We don't have a winner takes it all principle and only one person gets paid in such a competition. So maybe this is the reason, because it started all in the US and they just copy paste translated the terms and conditions, so that's why I'm not fitting to national law in Germany at least. Of course we have the discussion about fair wages, local and global, of course, because if I offer a job in Germany, of course it will be cheaper if it's solved from probably an Indian citizen, of course. So we have to find, but that's the normal discussions we have in globalization. Yeah, and for us as unions and workers representatives, there's a huge organizing potential. This is the last 2 minutes I want to use to show you something. There's this so-called platform faircrowdwork.org. So crowd workers are solo workers, not really typical a main target group for unions, because they're really hard to get together and make them collective thinking. So one option and one good thing about unions is that we want to inform and consult our workers about their rights and want to organize them. And this is one option because we go online. This is an initiative from German and Austrian trade unions and just started, so you can have information. So if you Google crowd work, this would be one of the first pages you will find. So if I'm going to start as a crowd worker, this would be a good page for me to inform me. If you go and join a union, you will find a list from trade unions who are dealing with crowd workers. You can fill out an application form and become directly a member, which is pretty good. So if you have a union which is not on the list, just write these people and they will put you on the list. And it's also pretty cool because you can use it globally. Amazon Mechanical Turk is one of the biggest crowd working platforms in the world, and there you can see a review about crowd workers who use the page, who used to work there, what are the terms and conditions, is it fair, can I communicate with each other? And on this platform we also have a chance to bring them together, crowd workers all over the globe. They can chat with each other, they can talk with each other, and maybe can find at some point a collective, not bargaining, but collective aims together, demands that we can solve in the end. So it's a pretty good thing. And yeah, there are many other options of influence. Use your rights to information and consultation, which means if you have an IT company and we as students have the right to information and consultation as the people, the strategic people, if they are planning to implement it, to introduce it, because then it's the only chance we can shape also a bit of these things. Set an agenda point to employee meetings, talk about this topic, because it's going to be growing, and yes, we have to talk about sooner or later. And if you have the budget, of course, use it to train your own union people. And last thing, in the end, we need a legal setting, of course. We need regulation in this online market, because there's basically no regulation at all. So if you have, as your institution, your union, you as a worker representative, have some kind of a political influence, use it to set up a digital, set up guidelines for digital platforms to make them a fairer place to work. And, of course, join Fair Crowd Work. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tobias, for that fascinating account of this new form of work, crowd work. I now turn to our second speaker, Monojyoti Maitra, who's going to speak to the age of the cybertariat and the labour question. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My topic is the age of cybertariat and the labour question. So basically this particular paper discusses about the changing nature, the evolving nature of work and technology. And I have gone with a medium of bringing history into categorizing the different periods of technological evolution over the 21st century. So I have divided it into four periods or four phases. The first phase is from 1945 to 1973. Now, if you remember, this particular period was a period of what we often quote as Fordism, right? So Fordism, the many perceptions that are attached with Fordisms are that labor were in a better position of bargaining. They have, they have more power of collective bargaining, and they got better wages. The working condition was better. This entire phase, it continued up to 1973, and this entire program of post-war Keynesian welfare state existed up to that particular point. Now, when there was the oil crisis in 1973s and 80s, the next phase came. That is the phase of that I call it the second phase of evolution of technology, IT technology. Here, what we find is that there was a declining in profitability of these companies, and there are some more features. Just let me. Yeah. Here, what we find is that mostly there was this entire work. The cavity of lack of workers was filled by lower paid positions, and there was also a program of special economic zones which was introduced in different parts of the world, especially in the developing countries. Then tax holidays, these are some symptoms or policy framework that were introduced during this particular second phase. Now, I hope that not everyone is interested in history, but still, the third phase is categorized from 1989. That means with the fall of the Berlin Wall. The third phase. So the third phase started with the fall of the Berlin Wall, and with the fall of the Berlin Wall, we find that entire neoliberal program was introduced. Okay, this was introduced with an idea, an ideology that the public sector, the government, should also go for let go the welfare, post-Keynesian welfare state identity and philosophy, and transit into a profit-earning venture, a profit-earning institution. And there are certain features that we can find during this entire period. The dot-com revolution was there, okay, the dot-com bubble. Then there was also the formation of the ITU, International Telecommunication Union, and this entire program of worldwide, web. It spread. Internet now, from a luxury, it turned out to be an essential commodity. It was moving from the corporate houses to the residential households. So this is about the third stage. In the fourth stage, that is the period, what we often call as the Great Recession. Now, prior to the fourth stage, or fourth phase, what I have called, we find that there was a pagnosia. That means over-optimism. Okay, and people, they thought that Alan Greenspan is speaking that no economy can fall apart. We have got the funda, we have got everything right, and everything is perfect. No such crisis is going to happen. But they had too much of faith on the IT industry, on e-services and banking, but it collapsed. It collapsed because of a theoretical fallacy, or maybe because of lack of vision. So this is the entire historical categorization of the phase of how technology has evolved over the 21st century. Now the next thing is that crisis of identity. Now when technology has evolved, this work has also evolved. There has been a change in the work culture. There has been a change in working arrangements. We find that many form of works, which was at one point of time was regarded necessity, have become redundant in today's world, right? Now many of you may argue that there has been ample amount of new avenues that have opened up, but certainly if that would have been the case, then the unemployment rate, it would not have been so high, at least in my country. So these are the thing that set of generic workforce. Now, what I mean by generic workforce is that multitasking. Now, you hire a sales manager. The sales manager is going to he's going to act as a HR. The sales manager is going to look after the sales. The sales manager is also looking to the marketing. The sales manager is also, going for promotion and stuff like that. That means there is no division of workforce. That means this entire, before this particular section, a particular part of the work was done by a particular person, a specialized person. Now, the age of specialization is gone, and what we find is that this entire scheme of generic workforce have taken over. And this is a very huge challenge, because with the large size of the reserve army of laborers, which is increasing day by day, we find that this generic workforce is also it is getting bigger. Then speaking about skills and this commodification of knowledge, we know that in the neoliberal era, particularly what we find is that some commodities, which were some services which were never regarded as commodities or products. Now they have been codified as products, such as, for example, e-learning courses. Okay, many of the universities, perhaps maybe in the north part of Atlantic, what we find is that they have gone for starting or introducing e-learning courses. So what is this e-learning courses? You're selling a product. You're selling a product, and you're making knowledge a particular commodity. And I think this is another form of wrong philosophy on which this entire scheme of production and productivity is related. Then there is also a limiting access to jobs and prevention of peer competition. What we find, I will just discuss this topic when I go to the next thing, that internal and external labor market. Now, internal and external labor market, let me first discuss about the internal labor market. Internal labor market means we have seen that, especially in India, that certain corporate entities have directly invested into education. Now they have started their own educational ventures, like be called the media houses or big corporate hunters. So what they do is that, or what they are doing right now is that they are going for not taking workers or, so to say, freshers from other institutes or other organizations. They directly go for hiring from their own institutes, like the Jindal School, like this Azim Premji University, and these are certain examples, prominent examples of this initiative that has been undertaken. Now, what happened? What is the problem with this internal market? The problem with internal market is that here the particular head of that organization, he tries to provide, catch the workers, put the workers, and by luring them with higher wages, pensions, holidays, and a range of other fringe benefits. And and they also go for in-service programs. Okay, in-service programs. So what we find is that this entire scheme of internal market, it doesn't allow someone to enter into this particular organization. So this has happened. This is a new phenomenon that has been observed in the corporate, but we find that given that if you belong from a particular organization, you certainly, they don't actually allow, workers from other organizations or avenues to come and enter. So that is a hostile situation. There is a discrimination, so to say. This is what is happening in the external labor market. That means there's an unspoken deal between capital and labor, and the employers do not make a long-term commitment to the workforce, but are prepared to accept lower levels of commitment and productivity from workers they feel free to lay off at will. So this is what about all this crowd sourcing. Okay, Now, why is this identities of workers are getting destroyed? What is the reason? Now, what is the reason? The reason is that there has been a disintegration of identities and the collapse of institutional arrangements that existed in the countries, in the different countries. Speak about the labor union, the labor bureau, or or any such institutions which are meant for protecting the labor rights. Those has been some way or the other, they have been crippled by the state, crippled by by the pressure of the corporates, and as such. And this new means category of generic workforce, they are just what they don't have their own skills. They are made, they are they are prepared, so to say, with only those skills which are required by the corporations. Only those skills which are required by the corporations, only those aptitudes, and up to what level of competence, what the corporation required, they will give that in training, in service training, only up to that level which they require from that particular worker. So these are the categories in contemporary times. how we categorize the labels fixed, footloose, and fractured, which is a combination of fixed and footloose. I will not go into the deeper definition of this. And sorry. And there, what we find in the neoliberal era also, that this entire phase of commodification of services, the public sector is moving away from providing the basic amenities. Especially if you're looking at the numbers, 43% of the European employees and 26% of Australians, they are going for e-outsourcing mechanism. Okay, and who are these places who are providing these services? It is the places with extremely low wage rates. That is, Russia, India, China, and Canada. Now, I'll just come into the Asian experience. If you look into the Asian experience in the post-2008 crisis, we find that there has been a derailment in matters of both growth and exports. Now, many times we have often seen that even the fund bank, they went for promotion of the idea called the information technology services and companies. They are the new initiative. They are the new form of institution which will entirely sort out all the problems. But that is not what has happened. Let's look at the data. If you look at the data, China registered an increase in export, and its growth rate has dropped from 12.4% in 2014 to 2.2% in 2015. So China and India are the major service exporting countries of the world. And if we look into India, what we find is that India's IT sector, which we boast so much, which is a 150 billion information technology industry, so it has earned around 88 billion in foreign exchange in 2015-16 through the export of software and IT-enabled services. But if you look into the growth rate, what we find is that it has fell from 20.8% in 2013 to 14.9% in 2014-15, and further it has fallen to 7.3%. So these are the major shocks that this particular IT sector, of which we had a pagnosia, that that this particular idea has completely collapsed. Moreover, what we find is that with the coming of Donald Trump, the labor laws and the visas, that is provided to the Indian workers, there has been change and there has been an upsurge. And Donald Trump's Hire America program has also hit back at the Indian workforce, especially who are engaged in the IT sector. Now, certainly there is a need for unionism in the IT sector. There is a need for unionism is because many of the IT companies in India, we find that they don't provide enough space for unionism. They don't, actually. They provide 0% tolerance to any form of union activities in the IT industry. This is I'm talking about up till 2016. This year, for the first time in the labor history of India, we find that for the first time, IT workers have come out. IT workers have come out and they have protested against the exploitation. So that's it. These are the concluding remarks. This is that certainly there has been an evolution of work and work culture, and especially in the knowledge economy. But in order to understand this entire phase of evolution, we cannot directly rely on the dogmatic theoretical foundations of Marxian economics. We have to accommodate some other theories. So, we also have to address the issue of employment and not only run about for technological improvement and cost-cutting technologies, because the data that has been provided by ILO predict that the number of jobs will increase from 17.7 million in 2016 to 18 million by 2018, even though the country's unemployment rate is expected to go down from 3.5% to 3.4% in 2017. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that intriguing account of the evolution of technology in the 21st century. We now turn to Padmina Sharma, who's going to talk to us about work on wheels in the gig economy, understanding work and employment relations in delivery services in e-retailing.
Good morning. I'm Padmini Sharma, currently pursuing my MPhil from Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Guwahati. I'm here to present my paper on work on wheels and gig economy, understanding work and employment relationship in delivery services of e-retailing. Advent of e-retailing has brought about colossal transformation in the realm of traditional retailing services. As a part of virtual services, the human component involved in this sector was hidden until the time the workers engaged in the lower segment of the chain started raising their voice against the inhuman working conditions that has been carried on at their workplace. The inquisitiveness to indulge in this research emerged during my master's when the trend of e-retailing was gaining momentum in our city of Guwahati. They developed an interest to know the world that was operating beyond our computer and laptop screens. Being an IT-based service work, around 74.4% of the sector's workforce is seen to be concentrated in the lower segment of these value chains, such as in warehousing and mostly in logistics. Hence, employment of such huge number of feet on the ground signifies a new trend of work on wheels that stands to be the backbone of the entire e-retailing industry. This is a pictorial representation of e-retailing's value chain, where my research is based on understanding the work of the logistic department that is located at the lower end of the chain. This paper is set against a backdrop of redefining work and employment relationship in an era of digitalization at workplace. It intends to explore work organization and employment relationship in delivery services of both in-house as well as third-party logistic departments of e-retailing in Guwahati, which is a city in India. Through qualitative methodology, I have developed two major themes. The first one is on work organization and politicization of workplace-workspace relationship, and the second one is on informalization of employment relationship in gig economy. Within these themes, there are sub-themes that will be introduced in brief. So starting with work organization, there have been two different approaches towards advent of informational economy, where Bell in his thesis on upscaling claimed such a paradigm shift from manufacturing to services, a route from transition from low-skilled manual occupation to high-skilled knowledge-intensive occupation. However, Braverman considered emergence of such services to lead towards taking over direct control of all processes of production and labor by the capitalists under the capitalist system. And hence it is signified by creation of secondary jobs in the economy. With this as a backdrop, my research came up with the following themes. If you see the work of a delivery boy, it is merely confined to taking over the parcels from his respective hub and delivering it at the doorstep of the customers. But within this, there are several tasks that add up significantly to the work organization of these boys. On one hand, these workers are considered to act as independent contractors in gig economy, where they are endowed flexibility in terms of at their work. But if one observes their work organization carefully, they'll get to see the innate control mechanism imbibed in their work. So there is a constant conflict between independent contract and employer-employee relationship. Aspects like equipment investment as mode of entry to occupation, or assuming ownership of the parcels till it is delivered at the doorstep of the customers, are justified under the tags of independent contract or independent business. But it is these workers who are again constantly monitored and regulated during their work that is basically seen to be present in an employer-employee relationship. Added to this, the highly work-centric skills that they are groomed in, or the negative perception of these delivery boys towards long-term employability in the sector, raises question on their attachment towards their work and its significance for overall development of an individual. A glimpse of Bronner's 4 facets of alienation, that is powerlessness, meaninglessness, isolation, and self-estrangement, are seen to be visible in case of delivery boys. The monotonous and fragmented nature of work, combined with focus on work-centric skills, leaves no scope for potential development of the workers, and hence it creates a sense of meaningless work being carried out. Moreover, control at work makes these workers operate like drones with imbibed corporate guidelines, leading to the alienation from self and other fellow workers. That in turn creates a feeling of disempowerment and self-estrangement at work. Moving on to the second part of the first theme, that's politicization of workplace-workspace relationship. A relationship at workplace assumes a different role in Burave's capitalist labor process theory that stresses on how workers consent to this very system that constrains them. The organizational structure of a logistic department follows a hierarchical structure, where the regional manager or hub in charge occupies the topmost position. Beneath him are the team leaders that work like supervisors to these delivery boys. There are inbuilt lines of authority and responsibility for the delivery boys as well as the team leaders. A delivery boy is seen to be maintaining different sorts of relationship with several actors in the structure, like its seniors, team leaders, peers, and customers. Hence, an attempt has been made to understand these relationships against the backdrop of Burave's making out game and theory and relations in production. Okay. The above aspects relates to relationship at workplace, implying relationship of a delivery boy with its seniors, that is the hub in charge, team leaders, and even with other fellow workers. Since they are emerging as a new sector, they have a lot to learn from both seniors as well as their peers, in addition to extending support to other fellow workers, either through information exchanges and social support. They are also trying to strengthen their peer relationship at work through introduction of teamwork and creation of unregistered societies at the workplace. However, working in an uncertain environment always runs the risk of sparking conflict in any relationship, and delivery boys are no exception, owing to the monetary aspect involved. In addition, management's policy on incentivizing work with no clear demarcation of work lines helps in maintaining latent conflict within the organization. Even in context of relationship at workspace, the work of a delivery boy is highly driven by whims and fancies of the customers. Managers one's work time with that of the customer is a tedious task, where unavailability or non-cooperation by customers disturbs their flow of work. Even with growing acceptability of online shopping, an element of uncertainty prevails among the customers, and the brunt of such suspicion is by and large borne by the delivery boys. In correspondence to Leibniz's three-way dynamic of control, the management of delivery services makes use of extensive customer feedback mechanism to monitor the boys' behavior and their delivery attempt. Hence, these delivery boys are constantly under the control of management both within and outside the organization. Starting with the second theme, employment relations basically represent the economic, social, psychological, and political linkages between the employers and the workers. These employment relations, as Kallenberg highlights, have undergone significant changes which transformation in managerial regimes and system of control. With the advent of gig economy, the standardized employment relationship have taken a trend towards informalization or non-standardization. The employment relationship in delivery services has been linked to non-standardized employment relationship based on the presence of multiple employers in the gamut and absence of explicit contract of employment that ensures long-term employment and social security of the delivery boys. There are notably two kinds of employment patterns seen in case of logistic arm of these companies. The first type deals with outsourcing of the logistic activities to third parties across cities, in which specific third-party logistic dealers take the responsibility of hiring the delivery boys and connecting the company with the customers. This implies involvement of three parties, and hence a triangular relationship is seen to be developed. But in some cases, the logistic arm to whom the companies outsource their logistic department in turn outsources the employment relationship to local employment exchanges operating at regional level. So basically, the employment exchanges assumes the responsibility of hiring and managing the delivery boys for the third party. The second type, implying a kind of quadruple employment relationship among the company and the delivery boys, destabilizes the traditional standardized employment relations. Hence, a different set of power dynamics is seen to emerge, with distinction between the legal employer, that is the owner of the delivery segment, and the actual employer, which is considered to be the online companies. Okay, moving on to remuneration. As the salary and incentive is proportional to the rate of delivery, the work of a delivery boy thrives on heavy calculative skills, whereby chasing targets become their sole motto at work. A delivery boy has to deliver around 35 to 40 parcels in a normal day, which increases 2 to 3 times more during mega sale or on occasions. That means he goes about delivering around 100 to 150 parcels in a day. Considering such mechanism, the relationship between financial incentive and performance can be conceptualized through expectancy theory of room. This theory signifies how incentivizing worker raises their expectation to earn more, resulting in direction of all their effort towards improved performance. And in this case, it means achieving more deliveries. In this, a web of control has been included, whereby the management, through incentivizing their work, inherits a complete control over the boys' effort and performance. As stated above, every form of monetary or non-monetary reward is designed to attract the workers in delivering more. As the title denotes, work on wheels, the work of a delivery boy encompasses constant movement throughout the day that exposes him to multiple external issues like pollution, heat, rain, traffic hazards, and so on. And these are seen to have major side effects on the health of the workers. But under triangular or quadruple employment relationship, the workers are neither protected by the company nor by the outsourced department. The delivery boys are exposed to security and safety threats not only within and outside the organization, even when it comes to protecting the workers. Support from management is received only when customers violate companies' rules. In addition to such narrow scope for negotiation at workplace, practices of policies like that of zero tolerance policy that aims to regulate behavior of delivery boys against women and children many a time proves to be costly for the workers. In such cases, the delivery boys are hardly given a chance to present their case and their contract is immediately terminated. Lastly, the role and governance of labor market institution can contribute towards policy initiatives in safeguarding the interests of these delivery boys. However, the employment relations being non-standardized weaken such governance system. To conclude with, we see that these days companies are trying to dignify the work of these delivery boys through provision of high-tech gadgets or uses of terms like delivery executives in place of delivery boys. What I believe is that they need to reconsider the meaning of dignity from workers' perspective. As one of the respondents cites, we are humans, not donkeys, that they'll give us this big bag on our back to run and keep running. So in that case, there's a need to see how they visualize their work. As for me, decent work is not merely about earning respect through your work, but you should also start respecting your work. Moreover, bearing in mind the nature of work and orientation of the workers, the question on developing a work-centric organization culture seems to be dubious. So is it merely about increasing the number at the cost of meaningful work? Furthermore, if such growth is encouraged, is there any scope for identifying potential structures in the chain that can lead to development of skills and potential of the workers? Or will such work continue to create dreamlike humans with more technological advancement of the sector in the coming future? Thank you.
Thank you for that account of working on wheels. Our last presentation is by Navpreet Kaur and Ampreet Kaur. It's a duet on linkages between irrigation, cropping pattern and employment, a case study of the Gang Canal region. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amanpreet Kaur presenting a paper on linkages between irrigation, cropping pattern, and employment, a case study of Ganganal region. This paper is an attempt to understand the role of irrigation and other factors in cropping pattern changes and as a result in the employment structure. In India, about 70% of total population resides in rural area. The majority of rural households are employed in agriculture in various forms, either in direct cultivation and wage labor or in activity with forward and backward linkages with agriculture productions. The development of agriculture was accelerated by the large-scale government investment in agriculture and allied sector in the post-colonial period. The production level and productivity were further accelerated with the launch of Green Revolution. But the agriculture sector registered a slowdown starting in 1980s due to a variety of reasons. Among these reasons, a decline of public sector investment in that time period and the policy shift from agriculture to manufacturing sector as part of new economic policies from the 1990s onwards are the most prominent. With the dependence on large population on agriculture, the study of change in the agrarian structure is essential to understand the development process in India. Agrarian structure and development of agriculture in reason, among with other reasons such as education level, expansion of non-farm sector, access to market, demographics structure, determines the occupation structure of the rural workforce. With the declining share of agriculture in GDP and unavailability of regular employment have led casualization of employment, which has resulted in a diversified occupational structure in India. Therefore, in this paper, the change in employment due to availability of irrigation and change in the cropping pattern are studied by the micro-processes at the village level with the help of empirical evidences and existing studies. The study is based on a household level census survey conducted in 2 villages in Ganganal region in 2015. Ganganal region refers to an area irrigated by the canal in the present district of Shri Ganganagar of Rajasthan state. One of the surveyed village, 25F Gulabewala, is in the middle reaches and another village, 63F, is situated at the tail end of the canal. In the surveyed villages, the access to irrigation resources not only determine the structure of land ownership but also the social structure of the village in the region. The number of households residing in the village were 293 and 106 in 25F and 63F respectively. The share of Dalit population is largest in both the villages. The village in the middle reaches has a high level of land concentration and other means of production among the Jat Sikh, which is the land owning caste in the area. 26% of the total Jat Sikh households own and operate 98% of the agriculture land in the middle reaches village. On the other hand, Dalit are the primarily wage worker in that village. The Dalit households have larger share in the land ownership and operation holding in the tail end village. But these Dalit households belong to the small and marginal size class of holding. The workers from these Dalit households also work on wage employment in agriculture and non-agriculture tasks. As it is shown in the table, in the graph, the employment ratio of both the surveyed villages is different. In 25F, 64% of population of age group 15 to 59 years was part of workforce. The share of male and female worker in the workforce was 87% and 40% respectively. In 63F, it was 65% with a figure of male at 77% and female at 52%. Out of the remaining female population in both villages, a larger population was performing a household job, which by definition is not included in the economic activity. The labor force participation in 63F is higher as 82% of households in the village are cultivated, but out of these households, 50% were marginal, small and semi-medium cultivated households. Agriculture still plays an important role in the economic development of this village, with a dominant proportion of male workers, around 49%, are operating land. On a smaller proportion of male workers were working in a non-farm sector, which we can see in the graph too. In the case of 25F, as the land is highly concentrated among few households in the village, and only a small proportion of working population are part of cultivation. The proportion of workers with regular and stable employment among the self-employment remained low in the case of both male and female workers. Also in the village 25F, which is close to a town named Kesri Singhpur, the proportion of male workers who are engaged in both farm and non-farm worker was 53%, which is higher from 63%. In the case of female workers, the dominant proportion of workforce was employed on a casual basis in both the farm and non-farm sector in both the villages. Casual basis in both the village, Since the mobility towards the cities and towns in lower among female workers as compared with the male workers, a large proportion of female workers, like 40%, were working inclusively in the farm sector. The major source of employment in the non-farm sector for female workers is only Manrega, which is a public sector scheme by the government of India. The access to canal irrigation within the household in a village remains similar, but across the village the availability of water varies, even if the villages are getting water for irrigation from the same distributory. In 25F, more water-intensive crops such as sugarcane and orchard are cultivated, whereas in 63F, less water-intensive crops are cultivated. The cropping pattern of region in which the major crop were millet, pulses, kapas, and sugarcane did not show any drastic change after the construction of canal till 2009-10. Agrarian transformation occurred only during the phase of green revolution in the 1960s, when the use of high-yielding variety seeds increased, and later during the 1980s, which saw an increase in the adoption of capital-intensive technology and high investment in the groundwater resources. But with the adequacy of canal water supply, both in terms of quantity and quality, and also with the increase in the market price of guar with the effect of globalization, expanded since 2010. This has resulted not only in the changes in cropping pattern in the Kharif season in the Ganga Canal region, but also in the Rabi season. Hence, the earlier cropping cycle of cotton wheat has changed either to guar barley or to guar wheat in both the villages. In the agriculture year 2011-12, the market price of guar crop increased due to high demand in the international market because of its use in the fracking process of extraction of stale oil and gas that has been increasing rapidly since 2009. This technology, which turned competitive during the years of high oil prices, increased shale gas production in the United States by almost 9 times between 2005 and 2013. In 2014-15, the area under guar cultivation was as high as 68.3% of operational holding, which was 61% higher in 2006-7. On the other hand, the area under cotton cultivation went down drastically and was only 5 to 2% of operational holding in 2014-15. Guar, which is a mechanized in the region, changed the employment structure in the region, which was largely dependent on the agriculture wage employment. The changes in production condition in agriculture sector has changed the structure and composition of the workforce also. In the earliest survey of village 25F, which was done by the FAS under PARI in 2007, the dominant proportion of casual workers, both male and female, were exclusively wage workers in agriculture, amounting to 68% and 92% respectively. The period from 2006-7 to 2014-15 has seen an increase in the share of worker in non-farm sector, but the proportion of worker working as casual worker in agriculture witnessed a decline. The average number of labor days of farm and non-farm employment are an important indicator of access to employment across the different sectors. The average day of casual work in the farm sector are low for both male and female in 25F. On an average, female worker has been engaged in a casual work in non-farm activities for only 33 days in 2014-15. In other words, female casual workers have worked only 52 days in a year and male worker worked for 144 days during 2014-15. Based on the earlier study of 20th village, Rawal 2013 pointed out that the average day of farm employment among casual workers from manual worker household was 117 days and 51 days respectively for male and female workers. With the change in the cropping pattern, the wage employment in agriculture for female workers has gone down drastically from 51 days to 19 days. However, the wage employment in non-farm sector have witnessed an increase in the average day of employment for male and female workers has increased. In 2007, male workers received wage employment in the non-farm sector for 24 labor days on an average in a year, and average days of employment for female workers was even lower. But even with this increase in non-farm employment, the average day of employment for both male and female workers has gone down. For female workers, the decline has been even sharper since women have been traditionally involved in wage employment in the agriculture sector only. In case of cotton crop, harvesting and post-harvest field operations such as picking, uprooting bushes and transporting were labor-intensive operations. On the other hand, harvesting and threshing of guar is done by combined harvest. In other words, where cotton cultivation predominantly provided employment during the picking season, the cultivation of highly machined crop restricted manual employment to few specific operations. The wage employment in both the villages have different structure, whereas the employment intensity is higher in 25F, 63F lags far behind. Households in 63F are engaged in small and marginal scale cultivation. This results in lower availability of wage worker in farms, and expenditure on hired labor is very low among these households. With limited wage employment in agriculture, the important source of employment was work under Manrega in 2014-15 for both male and female workers. The scale of casual employment in farm and non-farm sector was even lower in 63F for both male and female workers as compared to the 25F. Male workers were employed for only 62 days in 2014-15, however female workers were employed for 42 days only. The reason for lower days of employment for both male and female workers were limited diversification of the non-farm sector in the village. The ratio of male and female casual wage employment in 63F was only 62:42. In agriculture, high number of days of employment were in harvest and post-harvest operation for both male and female workers, as in 25F, male workers dominated not only hand preparation and sowing operation but also weeding and other intercultural operation. But the average day of wage employment in harvest and post-harvest operation was higher by 6 for female workers as compared to male workers. Over the years, the change in the agriculture economy has not only brought out changes in the structure of farm wage employment in the surveyed village, it has also, we can see the gross crop area of the villages increased with the increase in the guar cultivation, but this was accompanied by a decline in the area under cultivation of the cotton crop, which has higher per acre expenditure on various agriculture input including labor. The average per acre expenditure on a cotton crop was almost twice the expenditure on guar cultivation. The increased area under cultivation of guar could not provide employment to the displaced worker from the cotton crop, as most of the agriculture operation for guar crop were machine operated. However, the increase in the area under cultivation of mechanized crop which increased production but not in the employment. Even with the rise in the non-farm employment, the average day for employment for male and female workers have declined. On an average, the situation for female wage workers is even worse, as they did not have access to wage employment in the non-farm sector. At the last, we can say, instead of the policies of market integration in order to increase the GDP, there is still large need to develop policies for generating employment opportunity in public sector and in agriculture sector also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've managed to have some time for discussion. Let me just make one final check. The one speaker, Song, she's not here actually. Right, okay. So that completes our presentations. I wonder if you wouldn't come up to the front here and sit down and face your critics. We can take a round of questions. Yeah. Okay, I'll stand. That's okay, don't worry. Right, let's open up for a round of questions. Who would like to? Right, I have this gentleman in front here. Maybe you can just give us your name and organization and who you want to address the question to. Is there any other questions? Okay, I'll take the gentleman. That's three. The gentleman from Kenya. Right, over to you.
Good morning, I am Franco. I represent All India Bank Officers Confederation. My first question is to Maitra on, you were saying about IT sector, people not getting unionized, but now there is some agitation you were saying. I just want to add that the Madras High Court specifically has permitted IT employees to join unions, and there are two organizations, FITE and one more, which are organizing the IT sector people. My question is that today, in the name of technology and the artificial intelligence coming in, people are talking about displacing large number of people. In a country like ours, what is likelihood of this intervention coming in of artificial intelligence at a large scale? Even banks have started using some of that. Second question is, if you can see, Keynes long time back said that by 2030, with the advancement of technology, the working hours and working days will become 2 days a week. Even sometimes back, Jack Ma of Alibaba has said that it's time we reduce the number of days worked to 4 days a week. Whereas practically we are seeing that only the number of days of work and hours of work is increasing. So why it is so, if you can throw it. Second is to Padmini. Have you looked at all the service conditions which these people on wheels have? Like whether they get some PF, whether they are entitled for a holiday, whether they are entitled for a pension, those things, if you have looked at that, I would like you to share. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think those questions really get to the nub of the issues facing us in this panel. The question of technology leading to large-scale unemployment, the policy implications of that, the question of working hours and the precarious nature of work. Our colleague from Kenya.
Thank you. My name is Alphonse, and I'll be very brief. First, all the presentations were excellent. They are real life and real time. So please do more, because I think you are solving an existing serious problem. But I just focus on one that has been raised by Tobias on the issue of external crowd working, particularly the crowd working, the crowd environment as a whole. The issue of the crowd environment. Everybody is now going on internet, and particularly now we have the North
whether it's assignments, academic, and all that. We have a lot of freelancing, and they're focusing on the South. Now, for us to organize the workers, we must locate their power. We must understand what is it that they have in common that is their need, and how will they collectively come together with that need so that they can push the employer or the person giving the assignment not to exploit them. So in this space, I don't know what is your comment on how can the internet jobs or freelance jobs or crowd jobs online still remain decent even with the dynamics of globalization?
Thank you, Alfonso. Excellent question. And our third question, lady, is it Stephanie? Yeah.
Thank you. Is it on? So I will talk without microphone. I think it will work. My name is Martina. I'm teaching at the Berlin School of Economics and Law. And my question goes into a similar direction as yours. I think it was interesting that Tobias told us a little bit about platforms which try to bring workers together for exchanging experience and so on, calling for giving information on possibilities of organizing themselves in trade unions and so on. This does not seem to be the situation of the delivery boys. Huh? But so my question would be, what exactly are experiences with using online platforms? Has gone again. Using online platforms for organizing workers. And so what are the pros and cons of this instrument for organizing?
Right. Thank you. Let's get a response from the panel. I think all of you were to respond to these questions. Let's start with Schroder, Dr. Schroder. Have you got a? What's happened?
Oh, I stand there.
Yeah.
The first question was about how can we bring them together, the online workers locally, and find out what they have for demands, so we can raise also our interests as unions. Quite difficult, in my opinion, but the reason for this is that we have to realize that the crowd-working platforms, so the third parties, not the fair crowd-working platforms, so our union side, that crowd-working platforms do not allow communication between the registered workers. Of course, maybe you checked out Airbnb, you're also not really allowed to share necessary information on the platform, because if you would know the employer in the end, you could say, okay, we meet outside of the crowd-working platform, and then we don't need the third party anymore, and then you have a direct connection. So they want to try to block this communication. And it's only one approach that we say as unions, okay, if they can communicate there, they can communicate over our platform. And this is the faircrowdwork.org approach, that you can also register from India, Brazil, Germany, whatever. And you can see the reviews of other crowd workers, you can click them, you can contact them, and get in touch with each other. And so you're not blocked on this side. So you can chat with each other or share messages, email addresses, and then you can meet also not only online, you can maybe in the end meet also in real life, and then talk about what you can maybe do or change on the crowd-working platform you are at the moment working on. Then, because if you really want to work full-time as a crowd worker, you usually only work on one platform, not on 4 or 5, because it's really a big hustle. So, and if you're working on a crowd working platform, you always get reviews from your employers or from the people who get the job to you, and then you have a really nice profile in the end, and you would be really stupid to always change the crowd working platform, so they will stay there. So collective power is about communication. It's the first step we can do to bring them together and make them communicate with each other. That's the first step, and this is one approach, of course, to do it, to go there where the crowd workers are online, of course. Yeah. And pros and cons of this organization, I think there are only pros, in my opinion, because it's kind of easy to find out the union which is dealing with you as a crowd worker in your country. That's the reason why I support the idea to join other unions from other countries, to contact with them, because it's pretty cool that unions are going to crowd workers, say, hey, this is your rights, we consult you about your crowd working platform, and we're really giving them help. And that's the reason why maybe also the crowd workers become a member in the end. It's a really good approach, in my opinion. And of course, the cons are that we have to spread the word in the end, that everybody knows that such kind of a platform is existing, that crowd workers can inform themselves on this web page. And the good thing is at the moment that, like I said, that if you Google crowd work, this is one of the first pages you get. That's pretty good, that we are get attention and clicks on this site, that it will stay on the first or second, third place if you Google crowd working. So
thanks, Tobias.
Yeah. You can talk forever for this.
Well, sir, thank you for the question. Yeah, I did find out about the holidays that they are entitled to. They do get national holidays, but then that comes with an option to work on the national holiday for double the payment that they receive on a normal day. So basically, since they are driven by financial incentives, they prefer to work, because anybody on, who are engaged in these kind of work, if you offer them double the wage, then they prefer to work rather than stay at home. So this is what, even though it is available, but they do not avail, basically because of this option. And regarding pension, they do not have any such provision. So some of them are entitled to PF and ESI benefits, but that also comes with many conditions where the worker, many of them goes empty-handed because they are neither aware of the conditions that are attached to avail these kind of benefits, and even when they are aware, most of them claim that they cannot actually claim such benefit. So that is one. And with regard to unionization, since they are connected to their peers, like other blue-collar workers, they, in one of the cases it was seen that delivery boys who have been working for more than 4 to 5 years in a particular logistic department, these days they say that when they are confronted with undue imposition of workload by the management, they kind of organize and then assume a tools down strike, which is in their language a parcels in strike. Basically, they prefer not to take out the parcel, and they ask management to come, come at a level for negotiation. And if the management understands, they go up, they assume their responsibility. But then if management, it doesn't agree to their conditions, then they go about implementing the strike. But this is seen only in one of the cases. It's not uniform across all the other logistic departments.
Thank you for the question. On the first question, I want to say that certainly technology is always workers displacing. Displaces workers. That I don't deny. Certainly, it is true. It's a fact. We have seen many relevant situations, like when the computer was this entire program of introducing computer in offices was introduced. Many of workers protested against this technology transformation. So certainly at that point of time, we may not have seen a certain degradation of the employment avenues. But today, if we look into the data, deeper into the data, we will find that even the public sectors, they're hiring lesser and lesser. They're hiring lesser and lesser in India, I'm talking about. Given that how much better they are performing, but the employment on the part of the government, the avenues government revenues, they have shrunk. They have shrunk in absolute numbers, so to say. And secondly, certainly technology has put up a question on the livelihood of the workers. I don't deny that. Ample amount, again, many examples are visible in our society, many prominent examples. Then the third part is that why is the working hour has increased, or working days have increased? This is because of the definition of work has changed. Now we often quote work. Whenever we speak about work, work is attached with dedication. Okay, you will see the managers in the corporate houses, be that Nadella or someone else. They often speak about dedication. They will often speak about loyalty. They will often speak about the delivery of the workers towards commitments towards the company. But these are some sentimental put-ups or show-ups that are put by these heads, by these managers, and they have intruded even to the personal life of the workers. Now work, okay, especially we have seen there has been a recent development, be that in Silicon Valley or Mumbai. We find that the time, means the work time, it has no time. There is absolutely no time. There is no question of time right now. And any point of time, anywhere, any place, work is something that is attached to you. It has become intrinsic, right? Now the time is not from 8 to 10 to 6, okay, 10 to 5. It's not that concept anymore. And we find that different kinds of facilities are provided, and offices with home accommodations, with pools, with perks, with so many things. So certainly work has expanded. There is no more this entire concept of organization of a company is no more fall under the category of bricks and mortar. It has gone. Certainly it has transited beyond bricks and mortar. And this is the development. This is it. That's it. Thank you.
I'll ask you a question then. I was intrigued by the fact that you mentioned the National Rural Employment Scheme as one of the work options in these villages. I was interested to know what the conditions, how they compare with the farm work. Are they similar wages offered in the Narega scheme to what the workers were getting on the farms?
The wages are generally, the study villages, we found that, wages are lower than what they get in the farm sector. And in Narega, they get 100 days employment, one person from one family, so they are given a card, and one person gets 100 days of employment. So mainly female workers go and work in Manrega. So if there is any work provided.
Thank you. Right, we've had an opportunity for everyone to respond to a question, but we're running close to the end of the session. Is there any burning question that someone would like to ask? Yes, I think I'll just take one, if you don't mind, and then we can close the session. Thank you.
I have one question about crowd working. It is a technology which is developing fast now. Now, in that kind of thing, I would like to know one thing, that who are the employers of crowd workers these days? Are they from developed countries and workers, employers from this and workers coming from developing countries? Is it that kind of situation? Secondly, what kind of products or services you produce? Is it related to IT or something else? And I have one question on this IT thing. That government employment is shrinking not because of IT or technology at all. It is because of privatization, and government is shrinking its role as a government, and that's how jobs are going down. but IT is picking up. The demand was declining primarily because of the American and Western demand declining, but now I think they are spreading to other countries, and there is a possibility of picking up the demand. The recent trends are that. So it is not that it is declining in that sense, because IT is something which will always expand, and it's something which is missing. But it is not, I mean, IT is not the fourth revolution, fourth industrial revolution. Fourth industrial revolution is much more, which is robotics and artificial insemination, artificial intelligence and those kind of things. You know, where jobs are declining and jobs are being replaced by robots or something like that. You know.
Thank you for that point of clarification. Would you like to, Tobias, would you like to respond?
Yeah. Yeah, indeed, a good question. Where are the employers settled? I guess definitely mostly in developed countries, because also the crowd working platforms, so the third parties, are usually placed in developed countries, so maybe that's an indicator. But the thing is, it's so anonymous, the employers, that you not really know, even if you're working for, or you solve a job online, you're not really sure what kind of employer is behind that job. So it's really difficult to find out, but I guess it's more developed countries. But even in Germany, we are not sure if every company is doing that or not. So that's why I'm saying use your right to information and consultation, and ask the people in the strategic management if we are doing this or are they planning to do this. And what kind of jobs? I would say mostly it's often IT jobs, programming stuff, but also design, like I explained with the logo. It's pretty famous, and also texting, translating are often full-time crowd-working jobs. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think it was a question.
No, it was a comment, right? It was a comment, not a question.
Good. Okay, well, that covers it. Thank you very much to the panel for their presentations. It seems as if those who argue that the end of work are really overstating. But what we are seeing is quite a dramatic change in the nature of work, and in particular the conditions of work becoming more precarious. It's a real challenge for labour, and I guess that's another question. And thank you to the audience for your questions. It's now, time is up. We've got 15 minutes for tea, and the next session starting at 11:15. Thank you.